Believe it or not, there is one similarity between the England side that had toured India in the 2020-21 season to the side that are currently in India and have taken a 1-0 lead. The fact is, both sides ended up winning the first test, and it is remarkable to note that the England side of 2021 wasn't that different, although they were under the leadership of Joe Root, and it's worth noting were playing a lot more conventional cricket than, of course, the current side that are in the prime era of baseball and are looking to redefine and revolutionize Test cricket as a whole. However, it is worth noting that despite the fact that the Joe Root-led side did win the first test, they ended up slumping to a series loss when the nature of pitches on offer changed dramatically. Now, there is, of course, every chance that something like this could happen even in this particular test series, because again, the pitch that you had on offer in Hyderabad for the first India-England test was by every standard a rather sporting deck. Now, you could argue that this was maybe due to accident rather by design, especially when you consider the fact that in recent times, pitches in India do tend to turn square, and they turn square as early as potentially day one. However, what is to happen, let's say for instance, if they do in fact start offering up rank turners from day one? The difference between the England of this time around and perhaps the England sides that previously have toured is that they don't seem worried, they seem in fact prepared and are willing to take the challenge head on. In fact, if you listen to what Brendon McCullum, their head coach, said in a recent interview to a New Zealand radio station, you realize that they are in fact pretty confident about their chances of beating India even on what could be termed rank turners. In fact, this is exactly what he said. He said that we won't be afraid to play all spinners if the wickets will turn more. Now, it is worth noting that England have brought with them 4 full-time spinners in Jack Leach, Shoaib Bashir, then there's of course Rehan Ahmed, and last but not least the hero of the last match, Tom Hartley. That's 4 full-time spinners, all of whom operate properly as bowlers, even though 2 of them could be considered all-rounders. But there's also the fact that there is a Joe Root who also bowls a lot. In fact, he bowled a lot of overs not only in the first test but has bowled consistently ever since McCullum has taken charge, oftentimes operating as a second spinner in home conditions. So they wouldn't just have 4 spinners, they'd have potentially 5 spinners to call upon in what will be conditions that offer a lot of turn. That definitely shows a level of preparedness that hasn't been there in previous England sides. And not just that, there's also a fearlessness and a confidence in their methods, because again, coming into the first test match, there was a lot of talk about Tom Hartley. Hadn't played a lot of first class cricket, yet despite that got a call up, pretty much assuming that he had the skill set to succeed. And that's something that McCullum did confirm in this very interview, and then seemed very confident and very grateful that the gamble paid off. This is what he said. He said that we saw something in Tom Hartley that we thought will work over here in India. He's a tough character, but his was a punt selection. Now, punt selection, of course, means that they saw him, like what they saw, looked at his records, realized that his records don't make that for good reading, but they'll take a gamble and see if the gamble works. It didn't look like that gamble would work after the first innings when he was carted around all over the park and looked utterly lost at the highest level. But in the second innings, he composed himself, bowled a lot better, allowed his natural strengths, the strengths which got him selected for this test series in the first place, to shine through, and the result was there for all to see. Now, this is an unconventional way, let's say, of picking a test team or in fact even a test match player, because normally conventional wisdom says you look at their records in first class cricket, see how it is they go. But there is of course a school of thought that a lot of times you have had selections made on the basis of just let's say punts or an idea, or focusing on the belief that the players have the skill set to do well, even if that isn't readily apparent in the numbers. And in fact, McCullum himself pointed out the rather interesting example of one of the best spinners of his generation being picked for his national team in a similar way. Many would say that he's the GOAT of spin bowling. You can guess who that is. Yes, of course, I'm talking about Nathan Lyon. In fact, McCullum said very clearly that let's not forget, Nathan Lyon only played a handful of first class cricket over an average of about 40 odd when he finally got picked for the Australian Test team. Now, the numbers right here might be a little up down, but the idea that McCullum has in this case is solid enough. At the start of his career, Lyon wasn't considered primarily a red ball bowler. In fact, it was the opposite. He was seen as someone who would have a long white ball career, and he himself was prioritizing white ball cricket more than he prioritized red ball cricket. That being said, the selector saw a skill set in Lyon, brought him into the test side, then he worked on his game, and now he'll go down as easily one of the greatest spinners to have ever played the game. I mean, let's ignore the GOAT nickname for a second because that's clearly in jest, but he's definitely one of the best off spinners in this era and definitely one of the greatest Australia have ever produced. And his selection came about when he was averaging about 40 odd in domestic first class cricket. He didn't have the best of averages and in fact was more focused on white ball, but he's a red ball great at this point. And that's not to say that Hartley will in fact become the next Nathan Lyon, or that, let's say, all of the spinners that England have picked will be, let's say, successful in Indian conditions. That's not the case at all. But what it does show you is that they've come well prepared, and more importantly, they have the confidence to take on any conditions that will come in front of them. And that in fact is something that I think India will find hard to contend with. Even in the first test, one got the feeling that India seemed tactically a little behind what England were. England were very often pushing the envelope, trying new things and looking to be fearless. India, on the other hand, in the second innings especially, froze with fear. Something we're used to seeing this Indian team do, but the England team have a down pat that they think and say, no, we're not going to let fear bog us down. We're going to express ourselves and play our game. And that might very well be what leads them to success in India. Whether or not that actually happens, we don't know. But what we can say is that the mindset is spot on, and that if they continue down this road, they may very well have some success. At least that's how I feel. What do you guys think? You can let us know that in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and tap that bell icon as well. Also, go ahead and follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And last but not least, don't forget to download the AajTak app. Plus, if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we've done as well. For now, though, from my side, it is goodbye.